No? Okay, any guys? Thanks a lot. And I just want to thank the speaker right before us for setting us the right context for smart manufacturing or the sustainable living, with green power generation. Because we come to, exact same topic when we talk about OT security. So I'll just quickly go over, what Inspira is, without taking a whole lot of time. So Inspira, as a company, we are 12 plus years old company. We have 1700 plus resources, and we are a cyber security company. So we have been operating in IT world, for 12 plus years. We do have, SOC or managed services model where we do monitor right now more than 70 clients. And this brings to, the OT security is something we do see a big requirement because of the IT-OT convergence, Industry 4.0. There is a lot of, talks that are going about how I can keep it secure because the nature of your plant floor is very, very different than what you see in IT. The controls are very different. The networks are very flat. You may have a lot of legacy systems. So that brings very unique challenges. So again, we are certified when it comes to the security. We are CMMI 11.5 company. We have ISO 27001 or 22001. So we do have all the right security certification to be in this business. We are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant for our managed services. And we have a presence, globally. Our headquarters is here in Mumbai. We are present in more than 18 cities in India. And we are actually, more than 12 cities right now and 4 different SOC centers, Mumbai, Dubai, Manila, as well as Dallas. So we are operating in all these regions. Again, we look after IT as well as OT security as well as managed services because there is a big gap in market for OT managed services, what we see. And we do bring that to table. Some of the awards, of course, we do have Patrick. You met him, just an hour before. So we are actually, one of the premier partner for Nozomi. Also, we recently won APJ Partner of the Year, Emerging Partner of the Year award from Nozomi. And some of the parameters for Inspira itself, how we started, back in 2008 till 2022-23, the entire journey, how we opened our SOC center, how we are expanding, how we are taking over certain organizations to make sure that we stay relevant because the security market is changing every day and being relevant is more important. Making sure that we do use AI ML technologies to make sure all the detection happens at time. Make sure, when detection happens, these tickets get generated automatically, they get assigned so that your remediation can start immediately. It's very, very critical we stay ahead of the curve. Now, specifically about the company, we do have, a framework we call iSmart 2. It's a very customizable solution. It has a very specific dashboards that you will see for IT as well as OT. We'll go over this, in some time, after, this session is over because we do want to, respect time, that we have. We serve all the verticals, let it be BFSI. We are actually one of the leading name in BFSI sector. Any bank you actually do transaction with, you will find Inspira name when it comes to security in a background. Some of our clients are actually here in this room also. We are into healthcare sector, we are into manufacturing, we are into transportation. Some of the leading airports are our clients from a cybersecurity standpoint. We are into energy sector, we are into utilities and power sector. So we cover all the industries, across the board, and we do have expertise, in-house expertise for that. I will skip this slide because it's a fairly busy slide and it will take a whole lot of time. But these are our cyber centers. This is actual picture of our CFC, what we call Cyber Fusion Center, because I think, when you look at SOC, it is more than just monitoring. There is a remediation. There is a threat and vulnerability management. There are a lot of, other aspects that go around with SOC center. So we call it CFC. It's a Cyber Fusion Center, and we offer that as a service. And coming to OT IoT security. Now, it's very, very critical that for most of the IT folks, or information security side, OT is a black box. plant handles it. They don't allow you to connect anything. They don't allow you to talk anything about it. They don't want to upgrade it, right? Because there are a lot of dependencies. If you upgrade certain patches, there is a good chance your communication may break. So there are a lot of dependencies on OEMs also. So what do we do? As a practice, we have divided our services into several different parts, right from OT assessment based on NIST. If you talk about the power sector CA assessment, which is very, very critical now. Also, the IEC 62443, which is, again, one of the gold standard when we look at the assessment. So we can do the assessment, we can do the transformation part, we can do the asset visibility. Again, that's where the Nozomi, comes in picture. It is, obviously, we know it's a global leader when it comes to OT, IoT security. IDS solution, again, Nozomi is the name, that does the complete IDS. The compliances part, certain requirements are very stringent now, how you, when you detect, how you report, your log must be stored for a certain amount of time. So we are actually certain impaneled organization. And of course, the real-time vulnerability assessment and the managed services is something we provide under single roof. We don't go to third party for any of these services. Everything is within single roof, with, of course, the support from the OEMs like, Nozomi. Challenges, I'm sure, Patrick actually relates with all the challenges that he has seen so far. So lack of visibility is one of the biggest challenge, right? Now, when we say visibility, it's not only the device, but what does this device do? What kind of firmware it is, which protocols it talks, what is the communication pattern, so that once you baseline, you can actually generate alerts, or you can detect anomalies, especially 0-day, just by behavior, and not necessarily based on signature. Gap analysis is what we see, a very big issue. Very poor security policies. You walk into control room, I'm culprit of that, from my past life. You will see, all the control room operators know all the passwords. It's very typical because it's a different world. Multiple systems we'll see, whether it is Yokogawa, whether it's Allen Bradley, Siemens. Multiple protocols we'll see, Modbus, Profinet, Ethernet IP. Skills is a very big issue when it comes to cybersecurity with the plant floor. The convergence, as we talked about, convergence is a very, very big thing. All the companies do want to transfer their data to analytics platforms so they can make smart choices, faster choices. There is a big hurdle, again, because of these challenges. Legacy systems, secured remote access is another one, especially for OT. And we do see more and more threats right now in the OT security side. We do know, recent attacks in the last couple of months that happened on power sector, pharma sectors. So it is very targeted industry because of the nature of it. And how do we address it? So possibly, Patrick will talk more about how do we address some of these challenges, along with Nozomi.
Definitely. Once we get to my slides, or is it my slide time?
It will be.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah. So again, 3 different services that we provide. One is consulting and advisory, where we do the complete assessment of your existing infrastructure. There is something called security by design. So if you are indeed going with a new plant, to manufacture something, or in any industry, we can actually review that and give you right kind of suggestions so you have the controls to begin with rather than retrofitting something, which is always a challenge once you go live because you cannot shut down your systems. Implementation, where we provide all the solutions in-house, including Nozomi, and operations, which is the managed services part, which is critical. After deployment, then what is a big question. Managing those services or those appliances or the ecosystem that is deployed. Someone has to manage it who knows about it. So we provide complete management as a managed services platform. Single pane of glass.
Single pane of glass. Okay, I'm just going to speed up your slides.
Yes, please.
Okay. We're going to talk a lot about this when we get into my group, but obviously Inspira is Nozomi's partner, and we work very extensively, not just in India, but all of Asia Pacific, and they have a very strong team with their SOC, with their capabilities. about their gap analysis, about understanding and identifying the weaknesses, and then being able to deploy solutions and so forth. So what I want to talk to you guys today about, and I mentioned this earlier if you guys joined my talk or when I was a panelist, with the advent of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, we're seeing a huge convergence, right? We're seeing IT, we're seeing IoT, we're seeing OT, all being worked upon on the same backbone, the same network, and so forth. So this is bringing in new challenges. And the IT network group needs to be flexible, needs to be adaptable, and be ready to handle these challenges. I'll just mention really quickly how important it is to be adaptable and flexible. The reason we have this slide in here is because in the US, there is a hacking group that broke into a casino. Who likes to gamble? Okay, I got one, okay? Who likes to win? Okay, still, now we got more, okay? Anyway, in the US, a casino was broken into by the fish tank, all right? And what it was there was a thermostat on the fish tank that was connected to their very flat network. Hackers obtained access to the underlying OS of the thermostat because it is an IoT device, and they eventually were able to take over the network and hold the casino for ransomware. So we can see the convergence is out there. 2022 SANS, if you guys are familiar with that, Security Education Organization, they're saying that the biggest problem that's going on is how do I secure legacy systems, all right? Because legacy systems are that by its nature. They're old, they can't be taken offline. You don't even have a proper patch management plan because if you patch one device, how is that going to affect all the other devices and so forth? So there are some huge hurdles and challenges to do OT security. OT networks needs to be secure, but they need to be available all the time. I'm going to skip through a couple of these just because this clock is beeping at me. So the way that you approach, or we approach OT security, first thing is visibility, okay? You can't protect what you don't know. You can't protect what you don't have a view of what's going on. And that's really what we're saying that you need to get a handle on. You need to be able to understand what assets are on your network, how these assets are communicating with each other, what protocols are on your network, and how they're interacting and transmitting within themselves. You need to be able to baseline to figure out what is normalized behavior. So that way you have the ability to start understanding what is not normal behavior. And then once you are baselining your network and recognize what you consider as normalized behavior in your network, then the ability to do threat detection, okay? So when we're talking about threat detection, we're talking about known threats, your ransomware, your remote access Trojans, your buffer overflows, your man-in-the-middle attacks. But we're also talking about unknown threats. Now, how do you do that? Well, that's where we do anomaly inspection, where we're watching the host. Nozomi, for example, has fingerprints of over 6 million OT devices, so it has an idea of the config files of how is normal behavior and start sending out alerts if you don't have that normalized behavior. But Nozomi, regardless, you need to be able to have something in place that will give you protection for known threats, but also something for protection and unknown threats. And then finally, because the OT network is so fragile, we need to be able to, and this is something that we offer, the ability to integrate with the existing security infrastructure. Okay, we don't want to put new devices on your network. We don't want to add complexity to an already complex network. We want to leverage what is already there and in place and securing the environment. So visibility, threat detection, and integrated response are three keys to securing your OT network. I'm going to skip through in the interest of time. Very busy slide, but this slide is showing from Nozomi Labs how we are doing detections from the known type of threats and various ways we're doing that, whether it's snort rules, Yara rules, and if you guys don't know these terms, don't worry about it, but also the ability to understand the unknown of threats by doing baselining AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and then compiling all that information into anomaly detection. Now, by default, because OT networks are very, very sensitive, we do everything in a passive manner, but we do have some options for a more active to get a higher degree of confidence of what devices are on your network. But one of the things that I just want to point out really quickly about what we do, but also if you guys are trying to secure your environment, here are 10 things to make sure that you are doing for your OT network security, right? Make sure you have something in there to protect against malware. If you can't protect against malware, at least detect the malware, okay? OT monitoring, which is what we mentioned. Network segmentation, this is huge. Zero trust access. That is huge on what we can do to keep your OT network secure. Threat intelligence, working with vendors to get to know the latest and greatest threats. Secure remote access, multi-factor authentication. I can't stress that enough. Multi-factor authentication into your highly sensitive networks. VPN and a VPN client alone does not cut it. You need to have multi-factor authentication. Post-breach mindset, disaster recovery planning. These two go hand in hand. Don't ever ask the question, is my network secure? Because I'll go ahead and answer it for you. No. The answer is no. And it will never be secure. But, well, my slides disappeared. What you can ask is, do I have an effective security posture? And having an effective security posture means having a post-breach mindset, not if I'm going to get hacked, but I will get hacked, how am I going to respond, how to have my disaster recovery plan in place, already do attack surface footprint reduction, and then as well as OT monitoring, IoT monitoring. I'm going to skip through that. I'm going to skip through that. Is there anything in particular?
That's it. So just some of the use cases, as we said, we are into almost every industry, manufacturing, chemical processing, power generation, transportation, healthcare. So we do have use cases. Again, we do need to respect time. We are already 3 minutes over, but again, thanks a lot. We do have booth right outside. Feel free to come stop by.
Do we have any questions?
Is there time for questions?
We can spare a minute or two if anybody would like to ask questions.
I think back there.
The gentleman at the end.
Can we have a microphone back here?
Yeah, I think, Patrick, we spoke briefly, right? Hey. So I think I'll probably repeat the same question, right, in terms of organizations that have manufacturing operations 24/7, and OT is their lifeline. So what has been, you can share some experiences in terms of, what the journey has been. You can pick any of your use case in terms of, migrating to a better security platform, or what that took in terms of migration, or because typically in a manufacturing setup, nobody wants any downtime, right? So downtime is a big, especially if it is a 24/7. So how do you what was the mitigation plan in situations like that?
Right. Okay.
And
So-
added to it, typically you will see that many of the manufacturing organizations in the Indian context, and I'm taking example of ours as well, some of the systems are old, and it becomes practically very challenging to migrate to a Java-based platform or any of the newer technologies.
Right. And that's why I mentioned in our key statements is the need to integrate with the existing security infrastructure. So OT networks very sensitive, very easy to break, cannot have any downtime. So we position ourselves so we are a passive solution, meaning that we look at and do work on copies of the actual traffic. So we never go in line. We work off of taps. We work off of span and port switches off of the routers itself. So just look at port mirroring and doing copies of the traffic. And once we detect something, then we can decide how to respond. The response could be sending an email, very passive. It could be writing it to a log file. Or if you have certain firewall vendors in place, it can be even reaching up to the IT side and actually giving commands to the firewall side to actually start shutting it down to leverage your existing security infrastructure. We recognize how sensitive these networks are, and we're not trying to put new devices in place. We're not, saying that you need to upgrade everything. We realize how that probably won't happen, but getting the visibility, working with someone like Inspira for our managed services. I'll let you take over.
Yeah, so again, it's important to know it's completely passive solution. There is no scanning, non-intrusive, no agent that needs to be run. All we take is your span data and do deep packet inspection to give you visibility of all the assets, all the vulnerabilities, and any alert that gets generated. Of course, we can integrate very easily with same source solutions so that it can be monitored 24/7. Remediation can be provided. OT will not find automated remediation, as you rightly said, it's 24/7. So it may shut you down, it may impact your production. So generally the remediation is manual, is what we see in OT. Unlike IT where you can take certain. But of course, it can be conditional where you see any IP trying to access your network from outside, of course you can block that. So various ways we handle it, even legacy systems, but again, would love to discuss with you right after this.
All right.
Well, I think we'll conclude with this for now.
Okay.
Let me remind you guys, we'll be having a break after a couple of sessions where you can connect with them and ask your questions. So please make a note of your questions. And thank you so much for joining us. It was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
All right.